the last night of Pantomime, which in order to accommodate families and by special request will be played first, commencing punctually at 8 o'clock. So, hello everyone. Where are we today and why are we here? So we've come back out to the Eureka Centre in Eureka, Ballarat, part of Heritage Week. The Eureka Centre is hosting a small but interesting exhibition of theatre playbills from the 1860s from the Theatre Royal, which was an important but fairly short-lived theatre in Sturt St, and we're going to go and have a look at the site of where the Theatre Royal was. It operated for less than 20 years. It opened in 1858. The first structure was a canvas and timber structure operated by Tom Hetherington in the gravel pits opposite Golden Point, but it was soon encroached upon by mine tailings and mullock heaps, and it was moved to the site in Sturt St. It was the first and grandest theatre in inland Victoria, and it was the hub of community life. It opened in 1858. It closed in 1877, so less than 20 years later. And unfortunately, it was destroyed by fire in 1899. It wasn't the only theatre in Ballarat, because society and the men who came to Ballarat wanted entertainment. They were hard-working men, mostly single. A lot of them were miners by trade or returned servicemen from the Crimea War. And that's where we get the suburbs of Sebastopol and Redan from, being battles in the Crimean War. And young men, single, some of whom found immense, prodigious wealth on the Ballarat Goldfields, wanted entertainment and were prepared to pay for it. And in Ballarat, there was the Theatre Royal, the Crystal Palace Concert Room, the Jones and Noble Circus, the Queen's Theatre, the Victoria Theatre, the Montezuma Theatre, which was named after Lola Montez, the Star Concert Hall, and the Charlie Napier Theatre, which was an adjunct to the Charlie Napier Hotel. The Theatre Royal, the foundation stone was laid on the 19th of January 1858. It was a fairly significant and impressive structure. It sat 1,500 people. They had gas fittings, trapdoors, a fly system. Publications of the time suggest that the decorations were judged to be elaborate and tasteful. The building itself cost £10,000, which is an immense amount at the time. Now, here we have the playbills. They were produced, obviously, for one performance, to be disposed of afterwards. And as you can see, this one dating from June 27th, 1860. It was a combination of like vaudeville, music hall, theatre. We have a main, usually a 2 or 3 act play. Then we have some scenery, some music, the Great Gate of Peking, the Jewelled Cavern, Mrs. Twankey's Cottage, and the Muleteer of Toledo. So in the current exhibition, there are just 13 playbills. These are part of the Ballarat Library's collection. The Muleteer of Toledo. I have to laugh that, I'll laugh at myself. I saw a Spanish Bolero by Mr Chambers and what I thought was Mad Louise. Upon having a think about it, I realised that's probably Madame or Mademoiselle Louise, but I thought, that's not very nice. I wonder why she was called Mad Louise. So Aladdin, and as you can see, it was printed by the printer near the George Hotel in Lydiard Street. More to come about Lydiard Street. And these are what we call, in collectible terms, ephemera. The adjective ephemeral means short-lived or fleeting. And as a result, ephemera is paperwork that is produced for a short time, like programs, flyers, tickets. Puss in a New Pair of Boots, The Old Mill Stream, The Fern Tree Bowers. Now that looks interesting. Columbine, Harlequin, Sprite Clown, Pantaloon, Harlequina. Oh. Little Jack Horner and the Magic Mince Pie. Almost a bit of pantomime going on. Night of Musical Farce, July the 4th, 1862. June the 6th and 7th, 1862. Mademoiselle Therese in a new ballet. Almost reminds me of the opening scene of Phantom of the Opera. Much Ado About Nothing. Shakespeare. The French Spy. The Wild Arab of the Desert. Featuring General Beaumont, Colonel de Coury, Captain Didier, Sergeant Dubourg. And the Algerines. Ben Hamid, Mohammed, Akbar, Murad and Azinga, played respectively by Mr Cox, Mr Ward, Mr Royal, Mr Chambers and Mr Bendel. The last night of pantomime, which in order to accommodate families and by special request will be played first, commencing punctually at 8 o'clock. June the 21st, 1862. Some more Shakespeare, Taming of the Shrew. Our American Cousin, very, very, very popular and famous play. June 4th and 5th, 1862. Returned from the war. I would imagine that would be the Crimean War. And to finish off with a little bit of humour and pantomime. June 16th, 1862. Rule a wife and have a wife. A new comic scene. Perhaps, probably wouldn't be appropriate today. The 26 letters illustrated, the whole forming a most amusing, animated and instructive scene ever attempted in Ballarat. some Dickens. A double hornpipe by Mr Fawcett and Miss Julia Matthews. Heaps Office Micawber's Eruption. More Dickens. The Thames at Blackall. Departure of the emigrant ship for Australia. David Copperfield. The Wonder, a Woman Keeps a Secret. And Puss in Boots. So there we are. Only 13 playbills. I say only 13, but they are a snapshot, a cameo into the theatre history. And we're really lucky that they have been preserved here. This exhibition here is until August 2025. If you are so inclined, by all means pop down. We're going to head off and go home via Sturt Street and have a look at the site of the Theatre Royal. See you there. So we've come down to Sturt Street. As you'll see from the sign, the intersection of Sturt and Armstrong Street. Most people will be familiar that Sturt Street is pretty much the Grand Avenue of Ballarat and runs from the Bridge Street Mall way out west, Tree Line Street. And first thing we have a look at is very grand, stately Victorian Ballarat Town Hall. We have a statue here of Mr Moore, Irish poet. I don't know what, even though he's talented, I'm not quite sure why he deserves such a imposing position. Also notice at some stage we've had wrought iron railings which have been removed, which is a little disappointing, but some great tiling. We look here, we have got the Central Square Shopping Centre, home to the iconic department store Myer. Looking at the analytics on my video, I see that most of the people who watch my videos are Australian, but there's an increasing number of Americans who may not be aware of Ballarat and may not be aware Myer is the iconic flagship department store for Victoria. But what we've really come to look at is this is a corner of Sturt and Armstrong. As I say, it's not this section, but this section here. And the second half of the section, this is the site of the Theatre Royal. Today, no trace of it remains. We have a couple of imposing Art Deco buildings, great example of an Art Deco facade there. And I'm always impressed by that one there, the block arcade. And perhaps a less imposing 1980s facade. We won't even talk about that one. But this is the site of the Theatre Royal. 1,500 people, right in the heart of Ballarat. And I'm